What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C-Zar, and we are talking about Bitcoin Cash today. Shout out to the Dragon Riders in the House of the Dragon. We are chilling at about $327, $328 now. Looking like we are going to drop through the floor, probably even see prices below these lows here. That's kind of what I'm expecting to happen. Anything can happen, of course. Just because I'm expecting price to go one way or another doesn't mean that it has to happen. We could absolutely rip from here. I am expecting that we dip below these lows, but time will tell. We'll see how it goes. If we're looking at this on a RSI perspective, what you've done is you had a very bearish kind of downtrend, if it would let me pull it up. Bearish downtrend here in the RSI on the daily time frame. You had lower lows and lower highs, and we've broken through that downtrend. That's good. That's good that we've broken through it, but we haven't really done anything with it yet, right? We've broken through the downtrend in the RSI, but maintained the downtrend in the price. I'm assuming, and it can happen, it does happen, where whenever you break through your downtrends, you still go lower. Let's just see right here. You know, here you broke your downtrend right over here. You were still in the downtrend of the price. You did see a slightly lower low, and you didn't immediately move up, right? It took you some time to move up. So I wouldn't be surprised if not only do we move lower, but if it is some time, maybe at the end of this month, maybe even sometime in April, that it takes for us to start moving up again, right? Don't mistake that. I'm not saying that we're going to move down until April. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying after we find our low, we might figure ourselves out for a couple of weeks or maybe even more than that before seeing the next onslaught to the upside happen. If we're looking at this here on a daily RSI perspective, you are wrestling around with the 50 pointed posture downward. I would expect that this move resolves itself somewhere around, if not inside of the oversold zone. You might find support just above it. You're no stranger to doing that, right? You can definitely find support just above it, or peek your head just beneath the oversold zone. That can happen too. So don't worry. Something like that would likely take us below this low, and from a low here to a high there. Let's see. That would imply that we are going to go to about $240 to $205. Something in that area is what I would expect to happen. Let's see if there's anything else that lines up with that. In fact, I'll put some lines here and we'll just see, kind of give it our target zone being right here, if it'll let me. Right there, boom. A little bit above it, that's okay. 240 I did say anyways. And then that low there at 205. Okay. If we were to take this low to high, is there any fib extensions that line up there? Yes, there are. There's one. Come on in. 1272 at the 216, 217 area. This is an area throughout Bitcoin Cash's history that we found a lot of support. We are wrestling right now, and I think the reason why we've been held up is because of this great gap that we had back here. This gap has given us resistance and support throughout its history. Definitely a turbulent zone nonetheless, but I would expect, just looking at this, you know, if we don't go to 240, perhaps we do hold support at about 260. Something like that could happen. 260, 205, somewhere in that zone is what I would expect to see. But I'm more in favor of that 240 to 205 area because it's relative to these more immediate fib extensions, okay? If anything, the more immediate fibs, as they are more relevant to the immediate price action, they can still be overtaken by the bigger moves here. This is a more significant fib to play off of. 216 might be where we go. We could go lower, but I don't think that's going to happen for Bitcoin Cash. I would be surprised if we got below $200 on this next move. It wouldn't surprise me, though, if we did see prices around 240 or even below that, okay? If we're looking here, and maybe I should delete that fib there. We can keep those lines there, that target area, try and run with that. Let's look at the last cycle's bull market highs to the bear cycle lows that we have. Why did it not go? Let's see. Okay, that's okay. I'll fix that. Hold on. Bear market lows, bull cycle highs. It just doesn't want to go on that one. There we go. Golden ratio 382 bounce, golden ratio 382 again. But now you're finding resistance at the 0.5. The next likely area that you would go to is probably the 236 based off of this fib. So just it looks worse in that kind of perspective. But you don't have to. Sometimes, and it is common enough with these kind of movements, that you do wick a little bit through the 382 and close, you come back up and close in a very short amount of time. So if anything, this opens up the door to go below 200. And we have reasons to believe that, right? Prior areas of support here, prior areas of resistance here. But I'm not expecting that that's what we see. In fact, I want to take an overall cycle high to low now. Let's just see. Running it with this, trying to make sense out of this as best we can. Low to high. That was not the low. Low, give me the low. It's like it just wants to go. There we go. Something around the golden ratio would take us just below $200. I don't know, guys. I'm not a fan of the idea that we go below 200, and that seems a bit too extreme to me. there are a bunch of fibs lining up down there, but fibs aren't everything, right? Not by themselves, at least. Let's use some logic here. So to go too much lower than $225 would imply that Bitcoin Cash is dropping harder than the average altcoin. Okay, from Bitcoin Cash's highs back in April. Let's actually not even take that. Let's go back to November, right? Relative to a lot of cryptos, November, December timeframe here. Okay, most cryptos have dropped. I shouldn't even say most cryptos have dropped, but the average coin has dropped about this much. Okay, if we go to others, let's go. Let's look at this here real quick. Others. I'll just show you what I'm talking about. This is the average crypto in the space, right? Others. That's essentially what this chart is. It's like an index for the average chart. So we've dropped 55.8%. Bitcoin Cash has dropped 57.9%. It's dropped about as much as the average coin. I'm anticipating that the average coin continues to move down another 20 to 30% from their current prices, right? Something like that. 20% would take us down here. 30% would take us right at that low for a double bottom, finding support at prior areas of resistance. Maybe we go even lower. Maybe we see a 40% drop overall, but I can't see Bitcoin Cash going too far outside of that expected zone. If we were, 40%, let's be real, maybe it is a possibility, but I would have to see the average altcoin probably drop something that's greater than 30%, and that's not my expectations personally. I think that it will drop 20 to 40% across the board. By it, I mean the crypto space, like the altcoin markets. 240 to 205, based on that premise alone, makes a lot of sense to me that we would hold there. There are a lot of fibs, as we've seen. There are a lot of fibs that do, and I shouldn't even say a lot, but there are some key fibs that would make sense for us to go below $200. But from a percentage basis, I just can't really see us dropping. I really don't see us dropping too much lower than like 230, if I'm being honest. Still, we'll leave that 240 to 205 area on the table, and let's see if we can make sense out of it one more way. Okay, so this is what we're going to do. We're going to do BCH versus BTC, and we'll see what we can come up with here. Okay, on Coinbase, sure, why not? Okay. So we look at the weekly RSI here. We are in a bearish trend, absolutely. Rejecting the 50, not a good thing. Rejecting the 60, not a good thing. Rejecting the overbought, so not a good thing. And getting oversold, finding resistance, not being able to get above the 50, that's definitely bearish in itself. So if we are postured downward, does that mean that we go below this low? No, it doesn't mean that we go below this low. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if we held this low versus Bitcoin, BCH to BTC. I wouldn't be surprised at all if we found support here and we did not go below it. Also, on the contrary to that, if we went a little bit lower, that wouldn't be too crazy either. The 1618, the golden extension here from this relative pivot, this low to high, is just below this low. So if that happens, that's fine. But let's just run with the idea that maybe we stop either at the 1272, the 1414, or maybe all the way down at the golden ratio. Okay. If we stop at the 1272, this would imply that Bitcoin Cash drops 8.6% versus Bitcoin. If I'm expecting Bitcoin to drop about 11%, which I am, that would imply that Bitcoin Cash has a 20% drop to go from here. What would a 20% drop be? Well, that actually takes us right around and just below these lows here. So a little bit on the upper end of what I'm thinking. That wouldn't be as low as what I'm thinking, but hey, it could happen. We could find support just below this low. We could find support right at these areas of resistance back here. It could happen. And it's nothing wrong with that. Okay. But again, a little bit more shallow than what I'm anticipating. And this is the most kind of positive scenario I can think of, is that we find support at the 1272. The 1414, we could find support there, and I actually like that a lot. 18% now, plus that extra like 11% from Bitcoin, that would be a 30% drop overall. And that would imply Bitcoin Cash goes to about 230, and that's like smack dab, not smack dab in the middle of the zone, but it's right there in the heart of the zone. That could be where we go. And then if Bitcoin Cash drops 31% versus Bitcoin's 11%, that would be a greater than 40% move, and that would take us below the zone. So there's a couple of ways to make sense out of prices just above this zone, just below this zone, but a lot as far as a percentage drop goes, both on the BCH BTC chart in comparison to the BTC chart, and then applying that to BCH USD, comparing the others chart as well for what I would expect the average drop to be. To me, all fibs aside, it would make the most sense to go somewhere below 240, and I would even maybe adjust this target. Sure, we could go to 205. Sure, it's possible. There are reasons for that as well. There's a reason why we have that as our address zone. It is the relative golden ratio, after all, of this most recent pivot from a low to a high. Golden ratio right there. That's why we have that zone. But I feel better about refining this a little bit, maybe to something that's at about, let's just say 220. Because I want to say 230, but let's bring it down a little bit, okay? So 220, 240. We're at 326 right now. It wouldn't surprise me if we stopped right in the middle of that zone at about 230. Anything can happen. Absolutely anything can happen. But what I'm anticipating to happen mostly after this drop is that we will continue to recover. We will break out of this multi-cycle long consolidation phase. And when we do, it's the same old song and dance we've been singing and dancing to, hoping to dance to. I guess we're just singing to it. I still got that bottle of champagne ready to pop open once we do break out of this, you guys. Is that we will see a bigger move than we have throughout this whole cycle. We might even see the biggest move, the most spectacular move that Bitcoin Cash has ever seen in its entire life. In its entire life. Why can't I speak? What do I mean by spectacular? Well, let's just go over what we've done in Bitcoin Cash's history from essentially this same price. You can see going back to where we are here, going back all the way over here, from the low of this month, it was 2 months later that Bitcoin Cash saw a 14.5x move, right? What do I mean by something spectacular? What do I mean by seeing the most bullish move, the biggest move that we've seen all cycle, if not in this thing's life? I mean, we could see something of this magnitude or maybe bigger. You know, you don't know. And I'm not saying I wouldn't expect that we see something bigger than that in a 2 month span. If we do, hell yeah. Hell yeah, you guys. Bitcoin Cash is on the map. But likely, I would think we do see something, again, that's bigger than anything we've seen this cycle so far that stops us somewhere around these prior cycle highs, at least above $1,000, but we're looking for something that's around $1,600 to $1,700, if not further, okay? It might not be the biggest move that's ever happened in Bitcoin Cash's history, but one of them. And it really could. This kind of event is very significant, you guys. It is very significant. So when I say that it could be the biggest move that we've ever seen, I mean that. I really mean that. It's just, as of now, it is hard for me to willingly admit that I believe we would go from prices here to prices all the way up here or higher than, and by the way, that's all the way up at $4,300 over the next 2 months. That's hard for me to admit. I'm not going to say something I don't believe in. I accept it as a possibility. That's why we're talking about it at all. But again, that would imply that we'd be seeing prices. We're at $327 now. That would imply Bitcoin Cash sees a $5,000+ market cap. And I don't know about you guys, like those kind of growths in crypto, those 15x moves, they're not common, but they happen, but not so much in a 2 month span for a multi-billion-dollar market cap crypto. Okay, so whatever it is, whether it's phenomenal, it's a miracle, which would be great. We can start talking about 20K again, or if it's the move that we've been expecting that's been put off for months now, something around $1,300, I would say, to $1,700 is what I'm expecting. At a minimum, something around $1,000. At a maximum, I don't even know what the maximum could be, but something spectacular, something bigger, certainly, than anything we've seen this cycle is coming. We just have a little bit lower to go first. I've got nothing else for you guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you all for being here. One last shout out to the Dragon Riders. Hit that like button. Subscribe if you want to see more content like this. And I haven't sold any Bitcoin Cash, you guys. I haven't sold a single drop. It's all still there. I was playing with Bitcoin Cash, you know, a little bit here and there, but I have not sold any of it, right? What do I mean by playing with it? I had some short-term money that I was using in XCN, in LCX, and in some meme coins, and so that's like my meme money. This was anything that I bought from, let's just say, from like this time frame at all, it has not been touched. I have not sold a single lick of it. So all of that is holding still. BCH is one of my bigger allocations, and with that I leave you. So hit the like button, subscribe. Thank you all for being here. Bye.